Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Payson. Welcome back to the show. If you're already a subscriber, if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now. Professional heavyweight MMA fighter and soon to be fighting for 247 Fighting Championships Brawl in the Burgh 22 coming to Monroeville Convention Center on June 29th is Raiden Kovacs. Raiden, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. It's good to be back.
It's been great having you on the show before and after some of your amateur fights and now some of your pro fights. But
Yeah.
this is the first time that we've been able to talk about your matchup versus Branko Busick at Brawl in the Burgh 29. So jump on the show like you are and talk to me about how you're feeling. We're a little over a month out from June 29th. How you feeling? Why say yes to Branko?
At this point, it's just kind of getting after fights. It's when accepting other fights, I've kind of noticed like it gets to a point where it just becomes like repetitive, like in the sense of like, oh, it's another day in the office, right? Like people will go like, well, hey, why did you pick this guy or why did you pick that? And it's like, well, honestly, it's because he fell on my table and we felt good about it and we said yes, like taking fights ultimately, like if you want, I hold the belief that if this is something you want to do and you want to be an active competitor, this is just another like Tuesday for you, and that is what I aspire to be. So, this was somebody like, my opponent, like my other opponents, somebody relatively close to my level. I think he's got a little bit more experience than me, in the heavyweight division that fought for, a promotion that I fought and I've had good relationships with in the past. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. No problem. That's how I personally go about it. I've dealt with being on the receiving end of having guys turn you down because they want to wait for the super easy fight or they don't like how it's a challenge or something like that. I tend to always trust both my coaching staff and my management team, where if they tell me, hey, this is a good fit, they've never really like let me down. There's never been a fight where I went in and I was like, oh shit, we were really unprepared for this. It really didn't go our way. Obviously sometimes it doesn't go our way, but there's never been a time where I didn't see what was coming and I was completely like outclassed. So the answer is just, it was another Tuesday. It was another opportunity that presented on my lap. I said, cool. I like the time, like the date, like the opponent. So let's do it.
I like how you shared some of the behind the scenes mindset of you as a pro fighter. I think all pro fighters have different game plans. I think yours kind of works the best to
Yep.
actually take fights. A lot of pro fights, sometimes don't get matched and then, you're fighting once a year or something like that. So obviously you're trying to stay busy. You were already on this show to talk about your first win, which was by knockout. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Uh, how has that been like feeling wise when you're in this camp? Is it because your pro fight, your pro career got off to, a couple
Mhm.
losses. It's not the easiest to keep going. So how does it feel as far as momentum? Do you believe in momentum? Is it a thing? And if so, how does that feel to be in training camp with momentum coming off your pro knockout win?
Um, I'd say like momentum, like that idea is something that I've heard a lot of fighters talk about. And I don't think it's not true. I think it's just one-sided in the sense of like when you're on a losing skid, like it sucks. You feel it. You go, oh God, is something wrong with me? My curse or something like that. But when things are going great, you're just like, phew, I'm just so relieved that went well. Oh God, another opportunity is coming up. I gotta, get ready and bust my ass training for this one as well as we can and stuff like that. Because at any point, it can get taken away. So I I've shifted kind of my thoughts on it as I've gotten more experienced where it's just like it's another fight, so I don't believe too much in momentum or I don't think about it too much, I should say. I don't want to say it's not like a thing, but I hold the belief of just, yeah, this is something, it's no different than like a sparring match. It's
Mhm.
no different than, you know, a training camp where we have like a hard drill. It obviously is, because it's for your record. You put a lot of time and effort getting ready to it, but it's something that's become so commonplace in my life now that it's lost its luster in the sense that, like, I don't overanalyze it. I don't like worry about it as much. I still enjoy what I do. I still have fun, but I think it's kind of similar to, like, I don't know, like, I think of like hockey players, right? Like, they had like 80 games a season.
Mhm.
If you were like a nervous wreck going into that, that is like 2, 3 times every week. You would just be like losing your mind, and like you'd want to blow your brains out. And that definitely was me when I first started. I definitely got super anxious. I was super, scared. And not that I'm not scared now, but there's kind of a sense of just, you get familiar with it, right? Similar to, I think, like a skydiver, like, professionals that like go up and they jump out of the window. How many times? There's the thrill is still there a little bit, but that is so different than the first time they jumped out of that airplane. It's kind of like that, if that makes sense. It's a hard thing to describe unless you've kind of been through something like that. But to me, I'm just like, cool, I get to do the thing that I enjoy doing again. So I'm just excited. It's like playing a video game to me.
There you go. Well, I
Yeah.
think you described it very well. It's one of the reasons why I like having the show and be able to ask questions where you
Yeah.
can kind of take it in any direction you want. You fought for 247 before, both as a pro and an amateur. What makes them kind of a great promotion for you to work with? And then preview your thoughts on the 29th fight specifically, if you're going to give a prediction, things like that.
Yeah. I think that's actually, I think the first time we met was for the amateur 247 show. I
It
think that
was.
was,
It
if I
was.
remember correct.
Yep. Correct.
Small world.
Yeah.
But for 247, listen, just anytime I deal with like a local promotion that's just run by people that are just excited to like have fights,
Mm.
because at this level, it's run by like enthusiasts, like when you get to the big shows, that's where like the businessmen come out, and there's kind of a like a disconnect between like the passion of the promotion and the people running it to people just in suits trying to make calls. So like local promotions are run by like people who really care, similar to like how like people who show up to your local like for your like a local fight to support you, they really care about you because they're there way before like the big crowds or anything comes up. So if I've just the majority of the promotions I've been at, like the small like, local guys, have all treated me well, and they've all been highly passionate, highly respectful, and I felt have taken good care of me. Not all, of course, but like largely that has been the general feel. So anytime they give me a call back, um, especially if I kind of come in as an outsider, and like if I beat a local guy, I'm always kind of like, oh shit, that's funny. And then, if they call you back and they're super nice about it and they congratulate you for it, I'm like, wow, it was really nice of them. How cool. And,
Mhm.
so I'm happy to kind of give some of that goodwill back. So,
That's a great attitude to have. I've known you. We joke about it every video, every show we do. It never gets
yeah,
old. That the first time I interviewed you, you looked nothing like you do today.
yeah, yeah,
Shaved face, much younger, shaved head, and now you look like Sasquatch's older brother. So it's
yeah,
as a compliment, of course. So yeah,
yeah,
it's always exciting. I know 247 Ryan Middleton, the owner, Hunter Hammerstick, the GM, and of course the legendary Jim Mooney, all fans, supporters, love MMA, and then also love what's happening with 247. This fight will be at Monroeville, but what's really exciting about
mhm.
247 going forward is they've gotten their own, will be getting their own brick and mortar location. So a lot of
Oh,
these fights
cool.
going forward, it's been announced. It's being renovated from a movie theater into a fight arena, so it's taking some work.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, in North Versailles, it's called the Venue. It's already up. Some of the information's up. This is all public knowledge. Some of the information's up on the 247 Facebook page and things like that. But soon, 247 will be a local promoter, like you said, a regional promoter, a regional promoter that owns their own venue, which is going to be incredible. Their game plan for Jim Hunter and Ryan as the owner, for Ryan, it's his vision is to start having fights even more often, since they won't have the setup work as much, or the rental, and some of those.
Right.
Sometimes it's not even about the rental. Sometimes it's just about getting dates available. So anyhow, so that's soon going to be something. We don't have a first event. Who knows? You've been fighting for 247 enough on and off. You might be on the first venue opening event, which would be really exciting. Branko Busick, your opponent,
Mhm.
is the local Pittsburgh guy. He's gonna be. People are very excited to see him. So I like how you already said, kind of your thoughts on fighting, being the outsider, fighting hometown guy. He's coming off a really fantastic submission. Dars or Anaconda. I believe it was a Dars
Yeah.
finish. Yep, they're the same, just different entry points. So
Mhm.
we'll go Dars. Thank you for knowing that. So what do you think about like him being a guy who's had a lot of pro fights, sometimes put on shows that didn't go his way, but always wanted to be entertaining, even if it was at a loss, and now kind of came
Mhm.
out with a style about getting finishes. Do you think you coming off a finish, him coming off a finish, that really sets up a potential of both you guys going for the finish?
Yeah, it's something I respect, like it's hard coming back from things that don't go your way. And I think like it's one of those where you can come back and go, oh shoot, I need to play it like real safe. But like when you come back and you're going after it and you're like, no, I want to go in for the finish. I personally always think that makes you like a stronger competitor if you can get past it. I think it breaks a lot of people, but for him to kind of come back and be like, no, no, I'm going in for the kill. It's something I respect, and one of the reasons why I'm excited about the fight, because I think we're both coming into this kind of going like, yeah, no, we've been on the losing side. We don't like it, and it's gonna you're gonna have to kill one of us, in order to stop us from trying to go for a finish. So that's something I'm excited about.
Makes perfect sense. I think both you guys have that fan friendly style that's focused on putting on great, entertaining fights, and now both coming off finishes. It really makes it very, very exciting. Another thing that's exciting, I know you fought on a pro card out in Cincinnati for
Yeah.
247. They've already announced 7 pro fights. It's been announced that there's 3 more pro fights signed, and that'll be the
Well,
most right now. Even 7 is the most pro fights 247 has done, and I've been honored to be with them since the beginning, when they always had pro fights, but
mhm.
usually somewhere between maybe 3 or 2, I think a couple times 4 pro fights. But what do you think about being on a card uh, for 247 as it develops? You went from amateur, now pro, and now going to be on a card for 247 with the most pros. Do you feel like as a pro fighting alongside a bunch of pros kind of brings that level up, or do you think sometimes in the back it's exciting to be there with the amateur debuters who, just like you years ago, is kind of going through that first stuff? What do you prefer, being on a card with a bunch of amateurs where you're maybe one of 2 or 3 pro fights, or being on a card where there's really just going to be a couple amateur fights and mostly pro? Or does it not matter?
Yeah. I'd say like probably all pros, but that's mostly just due to the fact of wanting to climb up the ranks.
Sure.
Not that there aren't not that there aren't good or great talented like amateur fighters, like there are, but typically that is for like when they're at the beginning or the early stages of their career. So I'm always focused on trying to climb up the ladder and getting better and better. So when I'm able to be on these cards with like more pros, I won't lie, it definitely feels like, hey, we're moving on up. Especially like when these promotions get like bigger and bigger and like nicer and nicer, like 247 has. Because that's the thing is like I've fought for them like in my amateur career and like now in my pro career, and like I can see the growth of the promotion and the company. And you're like, wow, this is really cool. It's like watching your like puppy go from like a puppy to a dog. And you're like, cool, now like we're getting into the really fun stuff. So that to me always feels good, but I think that's mostly just relative. Like, going from an amateur to a pro, because I'm in the beginning of my pro career, it feels really good. But if you ask me like 5 years from now, like, hey, what's it like being on this all pro card here or being in like this all pro card here and this slightly bigger promotion? I'm like, probably like, dude, it's all the same.
It's a
I
wash at
wouldn't be,
that point. Yeah, gotcha.
yeah, I think it's kind of relative in that
Mhm.
degree. Like like we feel better when we see how much we've progressed, but then like once you kind of are there for a while, you're like, all right, yeah, I'm not satisfied with this anymore. And that's a good thing, you know, because that keeps us hungry and stuff like that. But you know, that's kind of why I feel that way like currently now in my career. And I would imagine years later I would have a different answer for you.
Well, that's again why I like having you on throughout different stages of your career. Hopefully, you'll still be coming on MMA Fancast when you're on all pro cards, and it's kind of at that point just sort of what's happening, right? At a higher level, at a bigger national promotion, which I know is still your goal. But it certainly is cool. I think it's great, like what you said, that at your position, you like the fact that you're kind of growing with 247 or other promotions where you're growing. And of course, being on more pro heavy cards means that your career is developing. You're getting on
Mhm.
kind of more exciting cards. Always fantastic having you on the show. You're the first fighter, just because of the way timing worked out and stuff. You were very gracious with your availability to make it work, to come on for this show. You know, 247 Brawl in the Burgh 22. They
Hell yeah.
just did a show a little bit ago in April, and so this is the first that I'm getting into the June 29th card. So for those that are gonna make the drive in, buy your tickets at 247fighting.com, give Raiden credit. Get tickets, because even though Monroeville Convention Center, which is a fantastic location, this
Yeah.
event was going to be at the Meadows Casino at their event center, Hollywood Casino at the Meadows. It was announced to be that, but so many tickets sold out so quickly at that smaller, just not as many seats could be sold. So it was
Right.
actually moved to Monroeville Convention Center, which at one point a couple months ago was announced that it was going to be sold and turned into a Hobby Lobby. And actually, there was going to be no more. That's real. That's real. There's going to
Yeah.
be no more events at the Monroeville Convention Center, which holds all types of expos and kind of like Comic-Con type stuff, and of course fights and stuff. And the local I guess law or local politicians stepped in and changed things so that Monroeville Convention Center could continue to be what it is and host great events like 247. And so they're back at the
Mhm.
247 event will be back at Monroeville Convention Center. I really appreciate you coming on. This is fair warning for everybody to get tickets. If you're going to do pay-per-view, you can download the 247 Live app and then also give Raiden credit when you're getting the pay-per-view. If you're going that way, that app is available on all smartphones and can be connected to smart TVs for a really great viewing experience. I really appreciate you coming on, Raiden. As always, can't wait for June 29th at the Monroeville Convention Center, Brawl in the Burgh 22 for 247 Fighting Championships. This has been Luke Basin with MMA Fancast and heavyweight MMA fighter Raiden Kovacs. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
No problem, brother. Good
You're the
seeing
man,
you.
brother. Thanks a lot.